Hello everyone and welcome. Today I will show you the Crosshair and Recoil System. As it says here, this system offers a fun way to make shooting more interesting by adding 2 crosshairs instead of 1, since having more crosshairs is easier. Well, let's proceed this way, right? As you can see, we have the main crosshair in the middle of the screen. This is where your camera is currently aiming. It can be modified using various shapes, sizes, and colors. Then we have the meat and potatoes of this asset, which is the aiming crosshair. Let me just hide the scope real quick. There we go. Better. Now, as you can see, there's a widget in the left side of the screen. That widget shows all of the variables that affect how the crosshair feels and moves. Of course, the aiming crosshair can also be customized in various settings. Let's go with this. Now, crosshair catch-up speed is how fast the aiming crosshair catches up to the main crosshair. For example, this shotgun over here has it's slower, so it has less catch-up speed, while the handgun has a lot more catch-up speed, which makes it faster in coming back to center. Then you have the recoil strength. I'll go into that in a second. First of all, let's talk about the horizontal, the movement sway, and the standing sway speed, distance, upright, etc. So, as you can see with the sniper rifle, if we hold right click, it's barely noticeable, but you can see there is some movement to the aiming crosshair. That's your sway. Standing sway is when you're not moving. The standing sway speed is how fast the crosshair moves, while the up and right distance is how far the crosshair will move left or right. Left, right, up or down. Movement is pretty much the same, but when the velocity of the character is over 10. So when you're moving, it amplifies all of those variables. They're basically different. Now, since we also have the catch-up speed, jumping, rotating camera, it affects everything. So it feels pretty smooth. It feels pretty nice. These can be affected by modifiers. For example, the applied modifier. I'll go into modifiers in a second again, but currently we have walk. When we walk, you can see the movement sway speed, but if you press shift, we remove the walk modifier and we apply the sprint modifier. And now when we move, the sway speed is a lot faster. You can remove shift, press shift, remove, and press. So modifiers, in a nutshell, basically, you can use modifiers to change one particular variable per modifier or multiple variables per modifier. And you can also stack modifiers. So you can add walk, handguard, and punch ammo, and stock. And all of these change a lot more modifiers. Change a lot more variables. Now, the recoil is as follows, because I did not actually shoot any weapon, did I? Well, let's do that because it's fun. So we can do the assault rifle, and now we can press left click, and this is the recoil. You have vertical recoil min, vertical recoil max, horizontal recoil left, and horizontal recoil right. These recoil variables are actually the limits to how much recoil your weapon can have. They're basically a clamp that you can use just so you can have more control over other elements of the weapon. But what you do is you add recoil to add minimum vertical. So that's the minimum amount of recoil that it will always be added, basically. Then you have recoil to add max vertical. That's the maximum amount of recoil to add vertically. And you also have recoil to add maximum horizontal. So the maximum amount of recoil to add left to right. So if you add like 0 horizontal recoil, then the crosshair will always go up. etc. And now we have recoil strength. As you can see, with the assault rifle, this is how the Crosshair jumps right now with the punchy ammo modifier. And if we remove this, which actually removes some of the recoil strength, it goes up a little slower. So recoil strength basically amplifies your recoil to add vertical and horizontally. As I said, the modifiers, it allows you to change instances of variables, one at a time or multiple, and they also stack. You can add, remove. You can use these for walking and sprinting as the example. You can use this for, like, if the character is injured, you can make them recoil. You can make the recoil be stronger. You can change the sways, etc. Now let's go into the scope, because I think that this is actually pretty much everything we can talk about at this point, except the scope. Okay, not stoke, definitely scope. So let's talk a bit about the scope. There's not much to talk about, really. It's a scope. It does what a scope does. But I like how it looks. It's really similar to the old Delta Force games. I really liked playing those games growing up. So yeah, it's a scope. We also have a rangefinder included. If you press 1, you can show the rangefinder. It's obviously only shown when the scope is visible. The rangefinder doesn't update instantly. There's a small delay. You can change that if you want to. You can show it or hide it. And you also have a scope customization. So included are various different scope shapes. Well, not shapes, but more like reticles. Yeah. And colors and some dirt overlays that you can use, which I think is pretty nice. And I think that's pretty much it. But alright, if I didn't say this, I'll say it again. Presets change all of the base variables, while modifiers can change one or more variables, and they can stack. Presets do not, modifiers do. So let's go a bit into the blueprint, in the demo blueprints. First of all, if we go into the demo, we go into first person demo blueprints, and let's look a bit at the projectile. Why do we go into the projectile, I hear you ask? Well, the projectile has a small example on how we show the hit marker animation. We get a player character, we get a component by class, we play the hit marker animation upon hitting something, if only it has simulating physics. Right, as an idea, the component is added to the character in this example. You don't have to. I didn't fully test this, but you should also be able to add this component to any weapon rather than the character. So you don't have to add the character, you can add it to a weapon and use the component this way. But for the sake of this example and the demo, we have added the component to the character and it works. So we do this function to play the hit marker animation. Now, in the weapon component, since this is the actual weapon, this is where the weapon logic is contained in the first person demo. What we do is, when we spawn the projectile, so we go into the projectile spawn logic, there's a different function here. I change it so I can call it from the character. It used the enhanced input. I just made it so I call it from the character rather than using the enhanced input. I'll show you why in a second. We can use the find look at rotation from the barrel, in this case ammo socket of the weapon. Get the look at rotation from the crosshair component, so we get a first person character, get component by class. You can also do get player character, as you saw in the previous projectile example, and get a hit location. This is where your crosshair is. This is where your weapon must aim. So be mindful of this. You need this variable. And then we basically spawn the actor and it'll go into that, towards that area. And if we go into the first person character, The recoil function, the crosshair add recoil, this is your main function to add recoil to your weapon. This is an example event on actually doing like fire rates and automated fire. Just an example, you don't have to use it this way. And right, this is why I have made the fire function in the weapon component rather than the default enhanced input. So we actually use fire and add recoil. So you do add recoil after your weapon fires, not before. That's the thing. Do it before the weapon. Do it after the weapon fires. Otherwise, your recoil will jump. Your crosshair will jump, and then the weapon will fire, and it'll feel off. So just add recoil after the weapon fires. I think that's self-explanatory, understandable, but just letting you know again. Inside the demo character, as you can see, seems a lot. Not really. We have the begin play. You don't have to do it at begin play. This is just for example. As it says here, the settings preset should probably be used when equipping or changing weapons, not necessarily at begin play. We have Crosshair DT settings preset. This is the function used to change the preset of your weapon. Of your crosshair, sorry. You can also use the update settings, which does the same thing, but it's blueprint oriented and not the data table. So you don't need to use a data table for this, but you do need a data table for this. Personally, I prefer this for organization purposes, and the data table is also used for modifiers. But nevertheless, this is an example on how you add the preset at the begin play. And this is, we set the walk modifier at begin play as well. The walk modifier is also used here. So when we press left shift, we add sprint, we find walk. If we found it, we remove it. And on releasing left shift, we add walk modifier, we find sprint and remove sprint if it was found. Since we talked about the data tables, I'll show you that real quick before we go into the other example. So we go to NGS Crosshair, we go to data table, and here we have the settings preset. These are the default presets I've made. As you can see, you can basically just add new one, set the variables, get this name, so you can set it to example 1. You get example 1, you plug it in here, and that's your preset. You can also just duplicate an existing preset and then change those variables. These are all the variables that are used, while the modifiers has something else. The modifier preset. As you can see, these are again the examples. You can add new. Again, this is the name that you need to use, example name, and there's nothing here. Yes, because this is an array. So you add plus, I think it's a map, not just an array. So it's a map. So what do I want to change? Well, I want to change the catch-up speed. I want to make the catch-up speed faster, like it's instant. Okay, add 100. Oh, I cannot add anything else. Right, think it's an engine issue. I honestly don't know. It's something to do with maps. If a default value already exists, you cannot add a new key. So this is a default value. Just do something else before we do catch-up speed. So let's say I want recoil strength to be -10. Then we want sway speed to be -50. And then we want catch-up speed to be 100. So this is how you can add modifiers. So basically now when you use this example name modifier, it will apply these values. And that's how you can add new modifiers as well. Now in here, we have the on right mouse button. We show the crosshair. Then show crosshair, you can show the main crosshair or show the aiming crosshair. You can hide both or one of them, etc. You can show the scope. This is the function to show the scope. This is an idea on how to toggle the scope, really. Sprint, already told you about it. These are the customization examples for the scope and the crosshair. And rangefinder, so the crosshair, these are the two functions that you use for the center crosshair and the aiming crosshair. This is the zoom function, the show rangefinder, also the update rate of the rangefinder, and then we have the scope customization. And I think that is pretty much it that you need to know. So again, add crosshair component to your character, call settings preset whenever you want to change the preset, and these functions to, well, show the crosshair, show the scope, add modifiers, etc. Now, in a crosshair component, before that, let's look at settings. Now, use sway when standing. This is a variable that we don't really have a function for, if I'm mistaken. Sway when, yeah. So you can change this variable though. You can change this variable without issues. If you use sway when standing, so let's do an example. This is actually used in the example. So the assault rifle, as you can see, the weapon has sway when standing, so when you don't move, the weapon sways. The handgun actually has that toggled off, so it doesn't sway when you stand. That's just an idea. So there are some variables you can change without worry. There are a couple of other. Everything is documented, by the way. So this is the crosshair component. Everything is documented. Hopefully, everything is. But there may be some. Toggle standing sway was the function. My bad. But yeah, you can use toggle standing sway or just set this directly, up to you. There's some stuff you can still use. You can have, you don't use, initialize is already used in the begin play on the component, so you don't really need to use initialize for the modifiers. But what you may need to do is you can use replace or reset. Reset changes everything, so it removes all the modifiers and it removes every stored data about the modifiers. Only use this if you want to completely reset modifiers applied to your current crosshair. You also have toggle mouse cursor. This is an example toggle mouse cursor. You can use this. You basically need to expand this, but let's do an example. Let's press when you press C keyboard. We'll do toggle mouse cursor and do this when we release the button. So you can also have something like this. Now when you aim, your crosshair actually follows the mouse cursor. So you can basically make an on the rail shooter if you want to. This is, why this is not in the demo is for the sole reason that you need to expand upon it. You need to do the whole, what was it? UI game. You need to do set input mode, set input mode, game and UI. I could have done that. I could have done this for you, but this is on a per project basis. Like, do you need to use this or do you not need to use this? Do you have other UI elements on the screen? What widgets do you have? So it should be easily expanded and put into practice if you need to use it. But for the sake of not having issues, I'll just allow you to make your own logic in how to show, hide the mouse cursor, etc., rather than me doing it for you and not working because your project has XYZ widgets or controls that, or you have your own, separate way of showing the mouse cursor. In which case, just set this mouse trace. Set mouse trace, it'll toggle it. So you can remove this, set this variable, and it will work, but it is there. You can use it if you want to. And I think that is pretty much it. Now you can look into do not use variables as well. If you have some advanced knowledge of Unreal Engine, while this isn't particularly advanced, the system in general, but if you do have some knowledge, you can definitely look for the code and change stuff to fit your own needs. Otherwise, it can be slightly difficult to understand everything that's done, but nevertheless, I hope you have fun, enjoy, and yeah, catch you next time. See ya.